Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Bekah Joe, aka the Makeup Tax Lady, and today we are doing 8 looks, one look with each of the Glaminatrix Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes that I have. I think for many of us right now is a time of year when we are looking at what we have spent and looking at maybe reducing some of that spending on the excessive areas. No shame about buying new makeup, but let's also just appreciate the things that we have. In the vein of nothing new and using what you have, I wanted to dip back into all of my Glaminatrix Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes and do a look with each of them, which is what we're doing in today's video. In case it needs to be said, I purchased all of these with my own money, some of them secondhand. Oftentimes, Glaminatrix only keeps a palette around for so long, so your chance of getting your hands on a newer one is limited. So many of these I have purchased, like I said, secondhand, new or used, but I am so glad to have all of these in my collection and I'm excited to show you. So we're gonna go through the 8 looks. I'll just have music playing through that. And then towards the end, we will just talk through just a couple minutes on each palette, some of my thoughts and conclusions on them. I will have timestamps included down below in case you're looking for a particular palette for any inspiration. If you have any particular inspiration on any of these eyeshadow palettes or this type of video, I would love to hear it in the comment section. So please feel free to throw your thoughts down there. All right, let's just get right on into it. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me through this little 8 looks journey. Now let's take a few minutes and talk about each of the palettes that I have. First off, this is still the look from day number 8 with the Nearly Natural palette. I've just tweaked my lip gloss. It's later in the day from when I filmed the eyeshadow part. So I'll probably look similar but slightly different, all of that. So while I didn't particularly film these in an order that was intended to be like a ranking, I did film them just kind of in the order that I reached for them. So in that sense, it's kind of, again, not really a ranking, but it'll show you which palettes I more gravitate toward, which ones I'm more inclined to reach for. So a semi-ranking of sorts. Anyway, let's get into these palettes. First, we have the Into the Night palette. This was the first of the Glaminatrix palettes that I reached for. This one is so fun. We have these beautiful grungier tones and then these brighter pops of color. When I reach into this palette, I tend to do the same or a very similar look just about every time I reach for, you know, this is like the perfect transition shade, and the mattes throughout all of these palettes are beautiful to work with. So this shade here, which is Play Hard, is just a beautiful transition shade for me. It's like slightly cool toned, but it's gorgeous. It's the right depth for me. And then I like to reach for either Showbiz, Chaser, or Nightlife. Sometimes we'll spice it up with a little bit of the green cocktails. I do oftentimes reach for Bustling, this beautiful multi-chrome blue shade. And then I almost always top like the rest of the lid with one of these. In the look that you saw, I did use both After Dark and On the Rocks, but I think this is such a fun palette. I always think that I want to use this palette and pull in one of these neon mattes, but I like very rarely do. So anyway, that is the Into the Night palette. Next, we have the beautiful You Beauty palette. I would say that this is one of the palettes that helped me get more comfortable using colorful eyeshadow because it has such a cool, like interesting twist on neutrals in here, especially with these shades Bloody Oath and She'll Be Right. And then we can make the look more neutral. We've got this brown stitch up. I don't often reach for these two mattes, Struth and Budgie Smugglers, especially this time of year. I've just been so much more gravitating toward neutral and cool tones as opposed to warm tones. The shades are beautiful. Fair Dinkum is also a really pretty navy shade. And then of course the shimmers in this palette are gorgeous. Next we have Nocturnal. This is the original Nocturnal, not the newer Nocturnal that they re-released. As much as I would love to have the re-release, I just couldn't justify it because I still have and love the original palette, but this one just has so many beautiful tones in it. I purchased this palette as well as the Nearly Natural like at the same time, and that was also while I was like getting into more colorful eyeshadow, and this one just spoke to my soul. I still to this day love all of the shades in this palette. I think the look that I did for this video is similar to another look that I did this summer. Maybe a couple of the shades were like moved around, but I find a lot of inspiration reaching for this palette and I think it's so fun. I can only imagine the revised version is beautiful as well. Next we have Pretty in Pastels. This is a beautiful palette. We've got some really pretty shimmers up here. All of these shimmers, of course, all of these mattes, of course, aside from the bottom row, are definitely pastel shades. So they're not super vibrant or bold on the lids. They're definitely lighter shades, and even on my complexion, they're lighter shades, but the palette is very fun and has beautiful formulas. The Glamorous palette, this is another one that like, I look at it and it just inspires me. I don't know that I've done a look the way that like I'm thinking in my head of like crossing some of the like purpley berry tones with this beautiful green, I think it's a multi-chrome Belle. We'll just swatch it. I think that's a multi-chrome. Anyway, it's a really pretty like olivey green shade, but to mix that with some of the like berry mattes, I think would be so pretty. I find, like I said, I find so much inspiration from this palette. The shade Generous is also just like that, like my skin, but sparkly. Like just a perfect blushy shade. So, so, so pretty. Dreamy, like the shimmers in this palette are so very much me. I love this one so much. Next, we have the Sugar and Spice palette. This is one that I struggled to reach for more than I thought I would when I picked it up. It's not necessarily a formula issue. I think it's a color story thing, but all of the formulas in here are still beautiful. I definitely love this shade Basil, and this shade Nutmeg is another one of those that's that sparkly, blushy shade. It is so, so, so pretty. And the packaging on this one is great. I love the smaller pans. I love that they started doing the smaller pans because for many of us, probably not everyone, but for many of us, the regular size pans are like more than enough product. So the smaller pans are even more appropriate for those of us with too many eyeshadows in our collection. Next, we have the Rich Romantic palette. This is another one that I reached for less than I expected to, but the look that I did with this yesterday with these purples and this coral color, I loved that look so much more than I expected to. The combination of the matte shades, especially this coral shade, which is Devotion, like that, the way that look came together, I love that so much. Here's just a quick look at some of the beautiful shifts in these shimmer shades. I think that part of the reason I don't reach for this one as much is because I wish that some of the shifts in the shimmers were slightly different than what they are, but they're all still beautiful and they have a beautiful sparkly texture to them. And lastly, I have the Nearly Natural palette. This is an OG classic and it is really pretty. We've got beautiful sparkles in here. I did pick this up as one of my first purchases from the brand, and I like had my eye on it for so long. So when I finally got my hands on it and then started learning and playing with more colorful makeup, this one kind of didn't inspire me. There's nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful, and I know that it's a hot palette for so many people out there, and I have nothing bad to say about it. That's just kind of where it fell into my eyeshadow collection. Okay, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Please let me know in the comments which of the 8 looks today was your favorite. What palette, whether it's one that I have or not, what palette do you have that you love from the brand? Do you have any like go-to color combinations, any look recommendations to try with any of these palettes? I would love to hear what you think. In the vein of using makeup that we already have and love, I just wanted to take another dip into the Glaminatrix Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes that I have, and I really appreciated that I've done that. Like I've said, I really enjoy the formulas in these palettes, and I'm glad that I reacquainted myself with all of them. I am happy with the current collection of Glaminatrix palettes that I have. I definitely think that some of their newer launches are beautiful. I just have not picked them up at this point, and I don't know that I plan to. Glaminatrix is definitely one of the brands that I have the most palettes in, so I think that's evident that I really like their formulas and really like to play with their products. And that is all that I have for today's video. So let me know any thoughts, comments, questions in the comments below. If you liked this video, I hope that you'd give it a like. If you are new to my channel, I'd love it if you'd consider becoming a subscriber. And with that, I'll leave you to it, and I hope to see you in the next one.